And I'm going to just explain one of those ideas before handing back to Steve to hand it over to you to discuss. And that idea is your square mile. So your square mile does what it says on the tin, if you like. There are 93,000 square miles in the UK. We are dominated by two of them, and that is the City and Westminster. And most people in this country feel severely let down by both of them. What about the other 92,998 square miles, including the ones with only sheep in them? We would like to do something about that. So one of our biggest ideas in terms of turning the big society raw, misunderstood or not understood ideology, stripping actually the name away and forgetting that it is about big society, just trying to do something practical for citizens. We want to set up a mutual, an industrial and provident society called Your Square Mile, which would be owned by all citizens. And in exchange for a very simple, small, affordable, university affordable membership fee, let's say £3 a year, you would join as an individual, and groups will push large numbers of individuals to us, but everybody is an individual member, one vote, and this mutual makes you a shareholder in Your Square Mile, and like anything else, like any other union you might join, or mutual you might join, but in this sense it's more than just a proxy vote at the AGM once a year, you would get dividends. So what kind of things might Your Square Mile do? To give you a few of our early thoughts, one is, which we're already starting to negotiate, cheap insurance, liability insurance for any kind of volunteering. So for £5 a year, I'm negotiating with a couple of companies at the moment, you would be covered for any kind of volunteering whatsoever. Because that is, whether you're holding a street event, whether you're helping old people in their own home, whatever, you will be covered. We are trying to work with government in streamlining, or let's hope one day fairly soon we get rid of CRV checks, to remove systematically the obstacles that get in the way of doing these things. So that's one thing you get. Second thing that you would get is a means of planning how you take action. And this again I would like you to think about today and help us develop these thoughts. When you look at why so few people volunteer or go to public meetings or whatever, there are a number of reasons. And when you look at some of the brilliant social enterprises or organisations represented in this room, and you draw the learning from them, what you see is that they start with people on a different basis to social re-engineering or being a good person. They start on the basis of saying to somebody, okay, let's start with the square mile where you live. What are you proud of? What are you angry about? What are you passionate about? What's not being delivered? Think about that. Tell me about your hobbies, your passions. You may be a gardener. It may not have occurred to you that gardening is not just a selfish, enjoyable thing, which you should enjoy, by the way, but if you went to a prison an hour a week, you could teach gardening to prisoners who are very successfully experimenting with growing their own food and things like that, having fantastic success. So take your hobbies and passions. Take your life experiences that you have survived or mastered, whether it's cancer, bereavement, being made redundant, just going through a difficult life stage, whatever it may happen to be. That is a passport to somebody else's survivor, if you think about it. Don't ignore your professional qualifications and think, if I'm an accountant, I've suddenly got to be something else because accountants are boring and I must go and do something really, really good now, like go and man a helpline, which you might not be very good at. And think about the fact that if a proportion of the social entrepreneurs or community groups in this country actually had free accountancy help, or legal help, or other help, they might actually grow, thrive and be better, or marketing help, or creative or design help. All of these things, your professional qualifications are a passport to that. In other words, to get people to think within a reasonable neighbourhood area, to think about their own talents and hobbies and passions, however humble or they might consider them to be, as a confident starting point. Marry those things up and then allow people to plan what they might do in their square mile. So think about a kind of method of getting people energised and realising that they could take an action in their area off the basis of something they feel confident about, which they might not think is a passport to achievement, but it will be. Another idea is to take an archetypal visual of a square mile of this country. So imagine you're on our future web platform, which will be accessible through all kinds of digital platforms, working with Martha Lane Fox and other very clever people on those things, so that we do have inclusion. But imagine you've got in front of you, you're a bit like Sim City, an archetypal square mile of Britain. So you've got your primary school, your secondary school, church, mosque, pedestrian crossing with Lollipop Lady, pub, library, Citizens Advice Bureau, etc., etc. And that if you pass your mouse or you touch the screen on this device, on this platform, you will perhaps, press onto the police station because you're interested in crime. And you get a drop-down menu that says, what do you want to know? Are you just dissatisfied with the police but don't know how to complain? Do you want to start a neighbourhood watch scheme? Do you want to join a neighbourhood watch scheme? Do you want to go to a beat meeting? Do you even know what a beat meeting is? Would you like to know? It will give you a well-organised list of things you might want, and other, because it may not be there, and take you down a very well-organised, practical, inspiring path to what you might do. So on the process of looking at how do I go to a beat meeting, it isn't just a link to somebody you might call, it is actually a link onto a 3-minute video that says, I live in an area of high crime, I never knew what a beat meeting was, I had no trust in the local police, this is what I did out of exasperation or anger one day, and look what's happened. It's not fact sheets, it's not dull stuff, it's not governmental, I don't mean that in a negative sense. It is inspiring and practical and energising because somebody else across the UK, or maybe across the world, has done it before you, and we can provide the practical help. So I think I'm right in saying that Google had a mission, or has a mission, to be the best organised library of resource or information in the world. Whether they achieve it is a subjective view, but that's what they want. We want something very similar. How can we provide, through people planning what they're angry or passionate about, however small or large it may be, taking an archetypal square mile of Britain and what they're interested in an easy, informative, visual way, and then travelling down a path to what they want to do more successfully. That's the kind of style of thinking. So we take this huge idea, this macro idea of society, and we break it down to the bite-sized chunk of the square mile, obviously not always literally a square mile, but the neighbourhood where you live. That's the kind of thinking we're thinking about. We're also thinking about how you can literally, as some brilliant organisations like Spice have done, make time a literal currency, time as a banknote and as a currency. How we could encourage people to invest in social outcomes. So maybe you'd have a social investment ISA, where if you are one of those people who have some spare income, typically baby boomers, £1 trillion not invested in property but in liquid assets, you've probably got that invested at the moment in fairly boring, low-yielding, if safe, investments. Why not take a proportion that is capital secure, you'll always get your money back, and invest it in a cause you believe in, like homelessness, or domestic violence, or taking children out of poverty. And when you get your annual statement, you don't just get a statement of your secure capital and some return, which won't be as great as a commercial return, you'll get, most importantly, a statement about what you've done, what your money has done to help tackle that particular situation. Or you could do it for the square mile where you live, or northwest Birmingham, or wherever you happen to live, an area. Or you could do both, a cause or an area or an overlap between the two. So that we liberate in this country people's money flowing into those kind of causes through simple, understandable and safe and secure products. Those are the kinds of ideas we are thinking about. We're also thinking about voting and how people can vote on issues and download ideas. So another area I'd really like you to think about is technology. Years ago, I did some work for NCR, the automated teller machine and other transaction equipment company, and I pointed out to them that an ATM machine is actually a communications medium, and you could actually communicate to your customers. So, you do know people's birthday, you do know if they've travelled and used foreign ATM machines, and the banks could use them to have a dialogue, a very simple dialogue, which might be slightly Big Brother-ish, but you could. But imagine you took web-enabled ATM machines, which we all use every day, and we could actually do something constructive with them for the big society. We could vote on something, or give something to a cause. Supposing What If and Comic Relief had the idea to do, many years ago, you do a round the pound. So every retailer agrees that if something's 98p, 99p, they say, do you want to round the pound? And the money just goes into community charities. Supposing we had Big Brother video booths in shopping malls or Citizens Advice Bureau or whatever, where you could go in and just deliver an idea or a complaint, and of course, yes, it's going to be open to abuse, that you wanted, as well as being able to record, as you can do now, some of the things that upset you in your neighbourhood on your mobile phone and send it off. How can we use all these technologies to vote, deliver ideas when they occur to us, when we're passionate about it, when we're angry, because those feelings, those emotions of anger and frustration are actually the most productive thing you can possibly have, and there's going to be a lot more anger and frustration in this country over the next 6 to 12 months. So how can we channel that so that it isn't the bad society, as it were, which it could very easily turn into, or the ugly society, but it is channeled for good. So please do think about big ideas like this. Think about your square mile, how we could make that work.